Bored, 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 bored. I'm not just bored. I'm chairman of the board.
That's because you're boring.
The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Now here are your co-hosts, Marv R., Bruce H., and the Monty Man.
Not only are you boring, you're chairman of the board. Well, welcome to Take 12 Radio, the great reality here at take12radio.com on your internet dial. Marv is here and Bruce is here and I am here and we are all together.
Hey.
I am the walrus.
Being bored is a sure sign you're thinking of yourself.
Ooh. Ooh. All right, let me write that down. Being bored is a sure sign you're thinking of yourself. Wow. Okay, that's going up on Facebook. See how many resentments we can get tomorrow. All right, so this is National Recovery Month. Welcome, everyone, to National Recovery Month. And a lot of stuff going on all over the country. We got Hands Across the Bridge ceremonies where thousands of people get together that are representing their own recovery. Sometimes it's 12 steps, sometimes it's other things, but they're all getting together and holding hands across the bridge and singing Kumbaya and blah, blah, blah. There's conventions, there's conferences, there's concerts, there's just a lot of stuff. So look at it. If you're looking for fun and recovery and you haven't experienced it yet, check out your local recovery, whatever. Ask around, because sometimes you don't know about these things because we misunderstand the anonymity tradition so often that we don't say anything about anything. So you got to ask. If you are in the Pacific Northwest, however, I will tell you that the Recovery Northwest Project is going on the 5th of the month, which is just right here in the next couple days. And it is at Clark Community College in Vancouver, Washington. And Moi will be there with his microphone and stop by our booth. There's going to be presenters and speakers and food and just all that kind of stuff. Come check us out at the Recovery Northwest Project. Okay, so this Friday, and last Friday we had Mike D on the show. We actually replayed his show on his book, Letting God In, One Alcoholic Talks to Another About AA Step 4. This Friday, we played that again because we wanted to kind of prepare you for what's coming this Friday. Mike D is going to be on the show talking about his new book, Basic Prayer and Simple Meditation. A recovering alcoholic talks about beginning spirituality. You don't want to miss Friday's show. One reason is we're going to give away a copy of each one of those books to some lucky listener that emails us. I think we said the 5th email, and it's dated and timestamped, so we'll be able to tell. But you don't want to miss that. In my opinion, these are the 2 best books I've ever written, particularly geared towards the newcomer when it comes to these issues. And I just really, really...
That you've ever written?
That I've ever written? Did I say written? Read. Wow. Talking too fast. I'm thinking too fast. Oh, I'm not bored, so I'm not thinking of myself. Anyway, there that is there. So this Friday, September 4th. So anyway, welcome to National Recovery Month, everybody. And our topic this week is our primary purpose misunderstood. Now, listeners, you know that as a broadcaster, and because my last name is on the website, I never claim any affiliation with any particular 12-step fellowship on this show. I just don't do that. Marv and Bruce do, but we don't use their last names. We use their last initials, Marv R, Bruce H. And so when we're talking today about our primary purpose, we're talking generally. So please understand that. It doesn't mean I'm claiming any membership. I'm certainly not representing Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Celebrate Recovery or any of those guys. Just sharing with you some thoughts and ideas about this fifth tradition birthed in Alcoholics Anonymous. So we're going to be talking about that. And but before we do that, though, I'm going to tell you what kind of spurred this whole idea on. I'm going to read you this sad story, very poignant story that I received from a friend, and that is
You have a friend?
I have a friend. He starts out with his statement: "Our primary purpose, ... is don't drink and help another alcoholic. Don't drink and help another alcoholic." I think that's too simplistic. I don't know that I agree with that. I don't disagree with it, but we'll talk about it. But he wrote that, but then he shared with me this story, and I want to read this to you. Wesley Colin Greer, on August 19th, 2015, so just a few days back, Wesley's family experienced the most horrific day every parent dreads. They found their beloved son, Wesley, dead from an overdose. Born August 15th, 1986 in Frederick. What is MD? Is that what is that? Massachusetts? Minnesota? What is MD?
Minnesota.
Minnesota, right?
No. Minnesota's MN.
MN. What's MD?
I think, I may be wrong, but I think it is Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Now, that'd be MAS.
Well,
I don't know. Anyway, okay. Somebody tell us. Well, anyway, Wesley enjoyed a charmed, happy childhood. He was bright, charismatic, and made a friend out of everyone he met. He was an accomplished athlete, excelling in baseball, football, and competed in a national championship, youth wrestling. Despite his formal size, everyone was touched by his gentle, thoughtful nature. Wesley graduated from Martinsburg High School, West Virginia, before attending West Virginia University at Kaiser, West Virginia. After struggling for several years with his addictions, Wesley moved to Fort Lauderdale, where he attended several rehabs, attempting to maintain sobriety. Though Wesley made some poor choices with the conditional love and support of his family, he found his way back. After exhausting all of the programs, he finally landed at Faith Farm and was literally saved. After completing their rigorous 9-month program, Wesley stayed on working in the intake office of the Fort Lauderdale campus for nearly another year. Applying the Christian principles of grace and service, he clearly mastered. He fought like a champion for each addict he encountered who needed his help. He deeply impacted so many lives in such important and positive ways. He is credited with saving lives again and again. He made more of a difference in 29 short years than most people make in 100. Grown weary of fighting the battle for so long, Wesley had recently moved to Brunswick, Georgia, looking to make a fresh start. He loved the southern charm of the area and was doing well. He was remodeling his mother's home and turning his paint and carpentry skills into a successful business. Wesley spent his days working side by side with his mother to make her home beautiful, a gift she will be extremely grateful for. All of Wesley's family was proud to see him return to the sweet, dependable, amazing man they had always hoped he would grow to be. Wesley's family wants you to know that he is not defined by his final poor choice. They are all proud of him and of the selfless love that he generously gave to others. He enjoyed his final evening with his family, sharing a great dinner, making plans to come over to Point the next morning and to be headed home. There's some typos there. His last words to them were that he loved them. He didn't die scared or alone. He knew he was loved. Because of his deep faith, they are secure in knowing that Wesley is with God in heaven. He's no longer battling his addiction. He's good. We're all left crushed, missing, and missing his beautiful smiling face. Wesley leaves behind his father, Warren D., and then it lists his family members. What happened? What happened to Wesley? And here's a man of deep faith, a man who certainly loved the Lord, was serving the Lord, and his addiction took him out, and it killed him. This is not unlike many stories that we hear, right? We hear this stuff way too much. And yet, at the beginning of this story, the person who sent it to me said, our primary purpose, don't drink and help another alcoholic. And I tried to put these together, and I had a hard time doing that. And I'll tell you why when we come back from the break. So I want you to chew on that for a minute. Is our primary purpose misunderstood? Now, some of you don't know what that is. And before we go to the break, I want to read this to you. This is also very simplistic, but capsulized in the book 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. In the 5th tradition, it says, and this is referring to Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, other groups may use this, but I'm reading from their text right now. Each group has but one primary purpose. So it's singular. One. And this is what it says: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Okay, think about that. And we'll come back. We're going to do some trivia after the break, and then we're going to delve into this thing. Our primary purpose misunderstood when we come back.
I didn't think it was possible for me to be an alcoholic. I was 24 with a good career. I thought I was too smart and that alcoholism only happened to middle-aged men and celebrities. I thought something else was making me sick, shaky, and afraid to face people. Then I found AA and discovered it wasn't something else, it was alcohol. AA helped me find a new life. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Addiction is the #1 health crisis in our nation. The Recovery Northwest Project is a collective group of all types of entities in Washington and Oregon with a common goal of bringing recovery awareness to the local, regional, and national communities. On Saturday, September 5th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Clark Community College in Vancouver, Washington, the Recovery Northwest Project will hold its community awareness event to bring the solution that is recovery to the Pacific Northwest. For more information or to join the efforts of the project, visit recoverynw.org.
Attention, attention everybody. Oh my goodness, and oh my stars. This week's trivia is, how well do you know your candy bars? Take it away, Monty.
That's right. This week's trivia is brought to you by the 12-Step Gazette. Visit their website at 12stepgazette.com.
Cecil's rocking out.
Cecil's rocking out. All right, candy bar trivia. Now, we've done this before.
I can't get involved with this one, Monty.
Because you're diabetic.
Yeah, I'm diabetic.
Wow, that's legalistic. Now, there may be a couple of questions in here I've asked before, and I'll see if Bruce remembers. We did this a long time ago on another show, but here we go. You have three questions and a bonus. All right, number 1. What candy bar was named after its inventor's family horse? Here are your choices: Snickers, Almond Joy, Fast Break, or Baby Ruth.
Named after its what?
Horse.
Family's horse.
Snickers.
Snickers.
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. Marv is correct. It is Snickers. Bruce, you are not. Originally introduced in 1929 by Frank and Ethel Mars, the Snickers bar was named after their family's horse. The original Snickers bar was sold for a nickel and consisted primarily of chocolate, peanuts, and caramel. All right. Now, that's useful information, isn't it?
Snickers.
All right, number 2. What candy bar was included in U.S. soldiers' rations during World War II? Was it Snickers, Twix, Payday, or Heath bars? What do you think? Snickers, Twix, Payday, or Heath? World War II rations.
Snickers again.
Snickers again, Marv says. Bruce?
Yeah, I'll go with Payday.
Payday, will you both be incorrect?
It was. Yeah, I know what it was now.
What was it?
Heath.
You're right. Heath bars were included in U.S. soldiers' rations during World War II because they had been found to have a very long shelf life.
That's what I was thinking.
The Heath bar was originally marketed as a health food, claiming to use only the finest ingredients. One early ad read, Heath for better health. Another candy often included in soldiers' rations was M&Ms because they didn't melt easily. So Heath bars was the answer. All right, number 3. What candy bar was originally packaged to include 3 separate pieces of candy flavored vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry? Was it Mounds, Mars Bar, Snickers, or Three Musketeers? It had 3 candy flavors, vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry.
Mounds.
Mounds? What do you think, Bruce? Mounds, Mars Bar, Snickers, or Three Musketeers?
Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers would be correct. Yay! Sorry, Marv. When it was first introduced in 1932, the Three Musketeers bar was packaged to include 3 separate pieces of candy flavored vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, thus the name Three Musketeers. Causing some confusion to tourists worldwide, the Three Musketeers bars is called a Milky Way in European countries, and the U.S. versions of the Milky Way is called a Mars bar.
Huh.
Interesting, isn't it? Okay, number 4. This is your bonus. And if you get this right, that's nice. In 1998, a warehouse worker in the UK was sentenced to 5 years in prison for stealing more than 300 tons of this candy bar. Was it a Mars bar, Kit Kat, Snickers, or Almond Joy? He stole 300 tons. If you were going to steal a candy bar out of these choices, what would you steal? Mars, Kit Kat, Snickers, or Almond Joy?
Well, I sure wouldn't do Kit Kats.
Okay.
And they're pretty light, so I wouldn't say that. So let's go with Snickers again.
Yeah.
Mars.
Mars. Well, there you go, Marv. You are correct, Bruce. You get the fluffy sounds. In 1998, Martin Keyes, a former ship manager at the Oxfordshire warehouse, was sentenced to 5 years in prison for stealing 8 lorry loads of Mars bars worth approximately $70,000. Keyes attempted to use his knowledge of the warehouse computer system to cover up the thefts. The stolen candy was said to have weighed more than 300 tons. That's a lot of sugar. That's a lot of sugar. Well, that'll put a diabetic in his grave real fast. 5 years, though? For stealing candy? What do you think? Email us at take12radio@comcast.net. All right, that does it for trivia for this week. Zip-de-doo-dah. We'll be right back right after this.
Don't go away. I know I won't. After these messages, KHLT Radio will be right back.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
I've seen a power greater. I've seen a power greater than my
It is only by the power greater than ourselves that we are restored to sanity. And by the same token, it is only by that power that KHLT Recovery Broadcasting and the Take 12 Recovery radio shows are able to broadcast every day. We'd like to give special thanks and honor to our higher power for allowing us to serve you.
Drowning souls, giving fresh breath.
Origins Recovery Centers provides integrated inpatient treatment for substance abuse and co-occurring disorders. At Origins, clients receive expert medical, clinical, and spiritual care individually designed for their needs. Our clients leave Origins with the foundation upon which they will build the rest of their lives. Call now to speak with an admissions specialist. Our toll-free number is 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
He's insane. He's a control freak. So, what's your point? It's the Monty Man at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial.
All right, welcome back. And our topic this week is our primary purpose misunderstood. Now, I read you that story about Wesley Colin Greer. It's not unlike a lot of stories that we read. If I go simply by this story, and I'm sure there's much more to it. This is, just a summary, really. It sounds like he had developed a vital relationship with God, was serving in a ministry capacity even at Faith Farm, and for whatever reason moved on with his life, and we don't know what happened. He went home, he saw his parents. The next day he had passed away from an overdose. When I read our primary purpose, don't drink and help another alcoholic, I thought, if that is all it is, well, first of all, help another alcoholic, I get that. There's a lot more to be said about that statement. But to just don't drink, my primary purpose is to not drink. Now, granted, I can't help another alcoholic if I'm drinking. I get that. But if it stops there, and I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying I think we need to maybe unpack this a little bit more so people understand. And listen, bear with me. If you're brand new, bear with me. I'm really addressing people that have been around a while, who are interested in perhaps sponsoring people, helping people, but I want the newcomer to understand as well that our primary purpose, the singleness of purpose, goes a little bit deeper than just not drinking. And I'm wondering, I don't know, but I'm wondering if Wesley had been approached with what's really going on in the primary purpose a little more in the beginning, maybe he'd be alive today. I don't know. I wonder. So, let me, I'm going to take out of the 12 and 12, 12 steps and 12 traditions, this one paragraph in here. Again, it says each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Now, the word that's in that statement that can be a source of confusion for some is the word "its." Each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. First of all, my question is, what is the message? And because each group is autonomous and basically they can do whatever they want to do as long as they don't affect Alcoholics Anonymous, the organization as a whole, in a negative light, what is its message? Can one group's message be that Buddha is the solution? Can one group's message be that Christ is the solution? Can one group's message be that your own intellect is the solution? Can one group's message be that the meetings are the solution? It says its message, meaning the group's message. I got an email from a guy who read a post that I wrote that talked about that and said they're not AA groups aren't bound to carry the message that's in the big book. They're bound to carry the group's message. And I scratched my head and I thought, if the group's message, if its message isn't the message in the basic text of the organization, then they're really not sharing the message of AA. So its message, I believe, should be the message that's in the basic textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, the treatment for alcoholism is not going to coffee with your buddies after a meeting. The treatment for alcoholism isn't even the meeting. The treatment for alcoholism, the prescription for the treatment is what's in the book. That's the treatment for alcoholism. All those other things are important and vital. I mean, obviously, I didn't find out the treatment for alcoholism until I went to a meeting, right? I mean, also what I'd known about it. But the treatment for alcoholism is what's in the book. And so I want to know what its message is. So I read this piece in Tradition 5. It says, Alcoholics Anonymous can be likened to a group of physicians who might find a cure for cancer, and upon whose concentrated work would depend the answer for sufferers of this disease. True, each physician in such a group might have his own specialty. Every doctor concerned would at times wish he could devote himself to his chosen field rather than work only with the group. But once these men had hit upon a cure, once it became apparent that only by their united effort could this be accomplished, then all of them would feel bound to devote themselves solely to the relief of cancer. In the radiance of such a miraculous discovery, any doctor would set his other ambitions aside at whatever personal cost. So it's saying that they would bind together for the purpose of curing that cancer. And it says Alcoholics Anonymous can be likened to a group of physicians who might find a cure for cancer. They would find the cure and they would focus on taking that cure to the cancer patient. If, for lack of a better term, and I don't want to get into semantics with people, if the cure or the treatment for alcoholism is what's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, then our primary purpose should be clear. What does it say in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is the treatment, or is the cure, if you will, or the solution to alcoholism? It states that it is a relationship with God, a God who can do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. That's what it says. I'm going to read you what I wrote, and then I'm going to open this up for discussion with you guys. I know this is a lot of information. My post on Facebook was entitled Our Primary Purpose Misunderstood, the title of the show. I started out by saying each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Page 150 in the 12 by 12. The problem in so many closed-minded discussion meetings today is that folks don't understand what that message is. What is the message? It's what the steps are there to show us. The message is that God Almighty is the solution, that we are in need of a power that can restore us to sanity, and that one is God. May you find him now. If left to my own devices, I am powerless, and left to your own devices, you are powerless. Then, as Bruce says so eloquently, the math is simple. 0 plus 0 equals 0. It is God and only God that is able to do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. Not the meetings, not my sponsor, not my church, not even my so-called religious belief system. Only God. I learned this fact many years ago when I couldn't understand why, after praying for years that God would keep me sober and going to meetings, I couldn't put down the bottle. Then one day, the light came on as I was learning to apply and implement the principles in the 12 steps. It was as if a still, gentle voice spoke in my ear and said, "My son, you have been relying on your prayers and not on the one you're praying to." Wow. That's when everything turned around for me. I have been relying on my prayers, not God. I have been relying on the steps instead of the one the steps were pointing me to. I have been relying on the meetings instead of the one folks in those meetings were telling me about. Bottom line, I've been relying on self, cloaked in right action. Once I realized how misguided I was, I truly surrendered, and that's when I began to understand what I had been reading and hearing for years. The Bible and the Big Book were now coming alive to me. This newly gained insight opened up a whole new world. Relying on self was a deception that almost killed me. I had been hearing empty platitudes for so long that I had come to believe that they were the solution. My sponsor tried for years to tell me that my dependence was not to be upon people, but upon God. I finally got the message. Praise God. Therefore, the primary purpose is to carry the message that God is the solution for the alcoholic who still suffers. The 12 steps are a method for reaching that solution. They are not the solution, but the method. Quote, remind the prospect, the alcoholic who still suffers, that his recovery is not dependent upon people. It is dependent upon his relationship with God. AA Big Book, page 99 and 100. That's why I do what I do today. How could I not? So is our primary purpose to carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers?
Yes.
What is that message, and have we confused it? Or have you ever been confused by what it is?
All the time.
So, Marv, I'm going to start with you instead of Bruce today.
I might need time to think about this.
All right, I'll let you. I'll let you chew on it. Go ahead, Bruce.
To start with, we can't make we just make educated guesses at poor Wesley.
Right, that's all we have.
What took place.
That's all we have.
Yeah,
yes,
because of what we have. But I think that the reason I can say what I did, it is our primary purpose. If we've done this thing, then the unity is the fellowship of the Spirit. That's the unity that they're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's a fellowship of the Spirit.
Mic a little bit.
It's capital
There you go.
F. On page 164. What we're talking about here. We're
You're
not
talking about the fellowship of God's Spirit.
Fellowship of the Spirit.
Yeah, the Spirit. Yeah,
God's Spirit, and that binds us all together like we never were before.
Right.
See, that's the unity, and I think the book is making an assumption. Okay. And the assumption is that somebody here has the answer, that somebody has a solution to the problem of alcoholism. That's the assumption that's being made. And if that's true, if you've suffered, like I did for 45 years to conquer this thing, and then somebody come alongside of you and told you that they had a solution to that problem, this alcoholism and drug addiction, and they gave you these 12 steps that opened the door for you to have that relationship. And I can use them today to help me when I see things are wrong, to take a look at it and take it to my sponsor and help me get around that wall that I have up. I have a problem with forgiveness in some areas today. And so I'll be taken through that with my sponsor and others that are like-minded like me, and we pray and those sort of things to get this thing done. I think that's the assumption, and that's the unification. And if we're not pointing people towards that method that you're talking about to open the door, because, see, my method hasn't been tested and proved.
Right.
Okay, but I want to tell them what I've done. You see what I mean? It's like Marv helped me today by telling me this story. But I think that it's because of I'm open to the story. Is why I was able to take it in. See, and that's from God.
Yeah.
It's God will show us how to have the fellowship that we've always craved. So I think I couldn't say much more right now because it'll be confusing and something we all have to take in. But if we're not pointing people towards that instead of dependence upon ourselves, then I think we're doing an injustice to them, regardless of what program we're in.
Do you think do you think that sometimes people that might read that tradition and misunderstand its message, meaning that a group can have any message that it wants because they're autonomous?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that can be kind of dangerous.
Well, sure it can. But I was, like we were talking about this morning, Monty, I'm convinced that we can all come together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are people that come into Alcoholics Anonymous that no more need that. They just need this fellowship that they get from Alcoholics Anonymous and the meetings and maybe some step work.
Right.
You know?
And thank God they're there.
And who wants to toss them out? Look at all the suffering that could be stopped. But I believe, this is just my own personal opinion now, that the reason we went from 50 and 75% down to 10 and 15% recovery rate is because of that. See?
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that they shouldn't be there. They should be there.
Yeah.
But my goodness, I would never want to tell anybody they have to do 45 years of suffering before they can get this.
Right.
It's just not true. It's just not true.
Yeah.
So there's people in there that people could appeal to. So what you do, you listen. Okay? And then if you can understand that person, then you make the approach to him. I'm looking for the lost guy.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for the guy that just walked through the door that only has 5 years drinking or had a DUI.
And could just say
somebody else can talk to him, and I hope they will.
They can knock it off by going to meetings on a regular basis and maybe doing some service work and pouring coffee and that kind of thing. And they don't seem to. I think we all need God. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. But as far as their alcohol abuse, they can pretty much just do it by jumping through a couple of hoops.
You know how we're reading in the big book, and they start doing these classifications.
Yeah,
and they get to the fourth classification.
Oh, the
and
drinkers.
This guy, he'll respond, and you would think he wouldn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
yeah.
See, that's what I'm keeping my ear attuned to that.
Sure.
And people that's been in the penitentiary, because I've been there, for I can talk to them. But I don't work with everybody that just because they've been to the pen.
I want to apologize if you're hearing a hum in the background. You may not hear it because sometimes when we produce these shows, it doesn't show up. But if you're hearing it, I'm really sorry. I'm gonna alleviate that. It's on Marv's mic, so it's Marv's fault. Marv, you had a chance to chew on this a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. and what are your thoughts?
Well, maybe a little bit scattered.
That's all right. Mine are too.
You know what I thought of when you first started talking and you were mentioning a group's purpose, primary purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Maybe you and Bruce can enlighten me. But I thought of Paul.
The Apostle Paul?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought of the groups he had to deal with. He had
oh my word,
the Greeks,
yeah,
and their philosophies. He had the Jews who were trying to kill him half the time.
Yeah.
Then there was the Gentiles who he was trying to minister Christ to. The common denominator and there was probably more, and
Right.
ignorant and don't know what they
Roman
are.
authorities. I mean,
Yeah, the list. The primary purpose for him was Christ.
So the message that he was trying to take was the same to each group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why I thought of that. I got kind of a goofy brain, I guess. But the point is through the letters that we read that he wrote to these different churches,
Mm-hmm.
the kinds of problems that he talked about,
Right.
are not unlike the kinds of problems we're talking about right now.
Oh, you are so right. You are so. In fact, we just finished up a series called the Red Letter series.
You know,
About hold that thought. Can you hold that thought?
No.
Or do we? Okay, go ahead. Tell me, and then I can hold mine. So tell me what you're going to think.
I think the method that we're supposed to use is the same method that Paul's using.
Expound on that.
Well, Paul was Christ-centered.
Yeah.
And he was pointing everybody towards Christ. But he was using principles to teach them to be Christ-dependent and to be more like Christ.
Not more like Paul.
Not
In
more
fact,
like,
he addresses that.
Not more like Paul.
Because isn't there a scripture verse that says some say you're of Apollos, some say you're of Paul, some say but you're of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that Paul runs into a lot of problems because he says he wants to take them back to what they first started because they're being dependent upon other things. And that's what's happening, I think, in AA. Instead of learning to be God-centered or Christ-centered, they're becoming centered on other things.
Yeah.
You know, there are people, like I say, that I'm convinced are being helped in there that don't need that.
Yeah.
But I think that's not to say we all don't need it. But the guy that's been battered just starts to understand step one will be more prompt to reach out for that divine help instead of a method or something.
Yeah, because he understands what powerlessness is, and he understands what power is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I like that.
That's why I think this message has got confused.
Yeah,
I agree with Mark 100%.
I do too. And what I was going to say is this Red Letter series we just finished up on at the fellowship I attend was talking about the letters to the churches in Revelations and that the things that were being addressed in each one of them. Some of them was paganism, some of it was false gods, some of it was pleasure, some of it was lukewarm living, recognizing who God was but living like you didn't need him. I mean, there was some of it was backbiting, all that stuff that you're talking about that Paul dealt with when he would, first encourage the people in the different areas of the region and then correct. We always started out with encouraging them, But I think, and let's shift gears just a little bit, because there are people listening to this show that are saying, yes, but you guys are talking about Christ, but it's God as you understand him, and it may not be Christ. And because somebody did write that. And, okay, let's go with that. The primary purpose is still that you need a power greater than yourself to restore you to sanity, and that's the message we're supposed to carry. We could talk all day long about who that power is, and we do that on this show a lot. But if you want to just whittle it down to the very basics here, the primary purpose, a group's primary purpose, if they're going to call themselves an Alcoholics Anonymous group, because remember, a person doesn't represent AA, but the group does. If they're going to call themselves an AA group, their primary purpose is what? The message that we need a power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity. That's the message. That's the purpose of the message, and I think that's what's getting lost sometimes. Not all the time. So, if it's like you said, I think last week, if you're working with somebody and they're a Buddhist, you expect them to grow in that and become a better Buddhist. If you're somebody who's a Muslim and we're working with somebody who's a Muslim, I would expect you to become a better Muslim. If you're in Native American way, and you believe in the spirit of nature, I expect you to develop a relationship with that, even a better one. And I think in doing that, in going back to what our primary purpose is in carrying this message, what message? That you need a power greater than yourself. I think people come to a place. I don't know about you guys, but I watch people come to a crossroads all the time. We need to be firm sometimes, but if we're in a gentle way, we'll work with them out of this book. They'll come to a place where they got to make a decision about who God is. And sometimes that changes from when we started working with them. You know what I mean? It changed with you guys, didn't it? When people were working with you, your idea who God was and his attributes, didn't it change?
Well, and it continues to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, I've been sitting here looking back and thinking of all the meetings I've been to, and the problem is kind of tongue-in-cheek here, but the problem is people. That's the problem. No, let me expound on
you're
that.
Right.
Even though I have personally so much time in the program,
mm-hmm.
I'm a long ways from being perfect.
Yeah.
People will never be perfect. So the ideal of what we're talking about, I'm 100% behind you. I agree 100%. But I think I can finish this up real quick. Have you ever been to a business meeting?
Oh, yes.
What?
Prime example, right?
Yeah,
Prime example.
yeah. What happens? What happens?
Drama, war,
people,
unrest.
People
become people, or show their true colors. People, their character defects can be blurring sometimes. Our character defects can be blurring sometimes.
So there enters in God's grace. And the meetings I go to, sometimes I can't help but wonder, how in the world does this group keep going? Because some of the things you see and hear, and so how I deal with that personally is I ignore it. I focus on, okay, there's a couple of things going on. I'm going to a meeting to try to move forward myself. I learn from the people in the meeting. And it's the second tradition specifically says, God and our group conscience.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I can't quote it word for word, but
yeah.
So I trust in that. I trust that God is in the room, and all these things going on around me are of no consequence if my primary focus or purpose is to try to learn something to move forward in my life. The other part, the second part, is observation. There's a lot of power in observation, and I try to use that to observe a door opening up
mm-hmm.
to possibly, in some small way, help somebody else.
I
Good. That's really good.
You know, I don't know. I just kind of have to laugh and grin a little bit because of what you see in meetings on a daily basis. If you go daily, I don't anymore, but I go every week. I go.
Mm-hmm.
It just cracks me up.
Well, and that's why I said tongue-in-cheek. Please understand, tongue-in-cheek. The problem in so many closed-minded discussion meetings today.
I think Marv is talking about something it's very true, and I think we've all hit on it a little bit, but Marv is just expounding on it. It's people.
Mm-hmm.
People are the problem. Okay? But here's what I'll say, why I say the things that I do. I agree with what Marv is saying, and that's like playing Russian roulette with my life, okay? Because it's to just go into a meeting and depend on that and what people say to bother me, especially when it's crazy, some of the things we hear, okay? So here's where what I use to disagree with this part of it. The book clearly states that we have a precise and clear-cut method by which we recover.
Yeah.
What the heck is that? You got all these people, you see, but all these people are doing their program or this program or depending on this or depending on that and getting sponsors and having long talks and all of those things might be good things. I'm not debunking them. But I will say this. They're not the precise and clear-cut method. There's no unification there. There's no fellowship of the Spirit there.
Yeah, but that doesn't take away the fact that God's in the room working and that we shouldn't be aware of that and be open to, I don't go there to depend on people. I depend on God being in the room to work through those people.
Exactly, and that's where I'm talking about that I believe, that's why I have to say, and I'm thoroughly convinced that there are people that can come in. I think that you play a huge part in that because you listen to people or you have something to offer and things you say, and we've chewed on them. We've all heard him on this radio station, and for those of us that's been to meetings with Marv, know that the thing that sticks in my mind is go order somebody's dog around. He says, "You think you're running something? Go order your neighbor's dog around."
So God isn't. His work is not hindered by our character defects. I mean, it's our character defects aren't going to determine God's ability to work in us, or in people. Like so, if you're a right fighter in a meeting and you're demanding your right to this or that, it doesn't mean that God still isn't in the meeting.
No,
it just means that you're being a horse's patoot. That's all.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah.
Since we're on this subject and getting pretty deep into it, I think God's in the room. I believe that. And I believe that these things take place. Now I'd like to bring poor Wesley back into this.
Okay.
The conversation about him.
Yeah.
Here's a man that seemed to have some real spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And we even say he loved the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And he did this ministry,
right?
Trying to help other people. What happened to him?
What happened?
Self-will run riot.
Self-will run riot.
Even if we're believers, Marv, if we don't continue to grow in our conscious contact with God and develop our spiritual life instead of our secular life, we're in trouble.
And if you go by that letter, because that's all we have to go by.
Even more so with people like that.
Right, people of faith. Because that's all we go by. It can go by is this, what I read, this letter. That's all the information we have. It almost sounds like he was in the thick of ministry, He was in the thick of being around people that could hold him accountable and the whole 9 yards. And he moved away from it. He went home, started his own business. Right. Maybe some of the pieces of the healthy boundaries, things like that, maybe they got chipped away at a little bit, and he became vulnerable.
I am in a position with my walk with God.
Yeah.
That if I didn't have you and Barb and some other people in my life, and people to keep pointing me towards that, and and people like Don that come over the other day and talk to me about prayer, to like iron sharpens iron. You see what I mean?
Right.
To point me towards Christ and to help me to keep building this relationship. I think that I'm just as I could do what Wesley did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so I just, not to say, try to say, I'm not saying anything about Wesley. I'm just trying to use him as an example for people to take a look at this thing. And I'm saying that I'm no better. You know what I mean? It could happen to me too.
Right.
This spiritual aspect, this life, is vitally important to our sobriety and our walk. And so I think the 12 steps help with that, or the people at that point. But I still, I use the method quite a bit. I'm not using it to get sober or to be legalistic. You know what I mean?
Right. By the way, MD is Maryland.
Ain't that something?
Just had to shoot that in there.
Yeah.
But no, I get it. I get it. So back to my question: if the primary purpose was understood as carrying the message, what is that message? The message is God is the solution. Then, if that had been introduced into Wesley's life earlier, would it have made a difference? I don't know. But what does sound like what made a difference in Wesley's life, it sounds like, I don't know for sure, but it sounds like maybe some things changed in his disciplines, in his boundaries, the things that were in place because it doesn't sound like he had a lot of years. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that 25 years of sobriety means you're safe. You know what I mean? I'm just saying sometimes experience helps you kind of plug into healthy boundaries more automatically than lack of experience.
There's a way that seems right to a man. At the end thereof is the way of death.
So I think our primary purpose, regardless of what 12-step spiritually based fellowship you're a member of, if you're going by that tradition, if that's part of your outline of your group, it goes deeper than don't drink. It's got to. It goes deeper than the understanding of it has to go deeper than help another alcoholic. We got to understand what that means. What do we mean when we say help another alcoholic? We mean we open the door for them when they come in the meeting? Does it mean we put our hand out and say hello? Does it mean we pour their coffee? But certainly all those things are vital aspects of making a good first impression and that kind of thing to the newcomer. But what is truly helping another alcoholic? And I think pointing them into the direction of what the solution is, that's what truly helping the alcoholic is. And if we're not doing that, then that's fine, but please don't call it, a mainstream 12-step fellowship. Call it your fellowship, whatever you want to make of it, But if you're not pointing to the solution, it may be a whole nother program that you're promoting. It may not be the one you're in. Just an idea, it's interesting if I own a donut shop and I hire you to make donuts and sell donuts and advertise donuts and promote donuts, and you come in and you start flipping burgers, you're still making food, but you're not Monty's Donut Shop. Sorry. Kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. It gets confusing. It goes back to people. Why do you think that I think that we have our place there? You know what I mean? And we all can't minister to everybody and all people.
Right.
So we're there to try to find some common bond that'll open the door for us to tell the person about the solution. Us having a common bond ain't got nothing to do with it. Nothing whatsoever. It's just a common bond. You know, the common bond that we want to move towards is the fellowship of the Spirit. That's the unity. It's not the alcoholism. You know?
Interesting.
So,
well, send us your thoughts, your anger, your approvals, whatever, at take12radio at comcast.net. We'd love to hear from you. And by the way, just so you know, our website is brand new. We have a brand new look. It is really, it's something. And I want to shout out to Peter Shapiro. In fact, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's Shapiro, Peter Shapiro, for giving me some really invaluable suggestions on that inspired me to redesign the Take 12 Radio website. It is it downloads faster, it's more user friendly, it's very crisp and clean and easy to operate. It is just an amazing website. It really is. And Peter, he gave me some suggestions. We talked for about 2 hours on the phone. And with the guidance of a loving God, I was able to get in there and make some changes. And there are a couple of pages in there that still don't reflect the new look. So be patient with me. But it's a whole new look, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I'm going to show you, Marv, you and Bruce, the website here when we get done. So visit take12radio.com and click there. And what's really kind of an added bonus is every page you go to at the top has a different high-definition picture of some beautiful place in Oregon. So you can kind of see where we broadcast worldwide because of the internet, but it kind of shows you where we're coming from and what's going on here in Oregon as far as God's country goes up here in the Pacific Northwest. Don't forget, this Friday, September 4th, Mike D., his new book, Basic Prayer and Simple Meditation. Really quickly, Marv, give us a plug for that. What did you think of that book, brother?
Oh, boy, I'll tell you what. I really enjoyed the simplicity, the practicality, and man, that thing's going to help a lot of new people. Yeah. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah.
And just in case anybody wants to know, the main thing that was drilled into my head while I read it, take action.
Yeah.
Take action. Very good.
Everything is accompanied by action. Anyway, I really enjoyed the book.
Ask me about the book.
What did you think about the book, Bruce?
Well, I think that Marv is mean because he made me feel guilty and I had to pick it up and start reading it.
Well, good. All right, so please, Saturday, this Saturday, we will be up at the Recovery Northwest Project at Clark Community College in Vancouver, Washington, from 9 a.m. to like 4 p.m. Stop by the booth, say hello, get some information on Take 12 Radio if you're in the area. And remember, being bored, according to Marv, is a sign that you're thinking of yourself. Until our next
sure sign.
A sure sign. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, Marvin Bruce, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye, my friends.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.